Why do you wake up at exactly 3 a.m., right in the middle of the night, with a scarily clear head and anxiety? More than 65% of people with chronic fatigue fall into this trap. This is not just insomnia, it is a signal of a systemic failure. Right now, we will break down this wolf hour mechanism, and I will give you a step-by-step plan to regain deep sleep today. I am Dr. Maria Nikolskaya, a therapist with 10 years of experience and a consultant for healthy aging. My office often hears the same question, whispered with tired eyes. Doctor, why does this happen to me every night? This is not just insomnia, but a signal of systemic failure. Your body is switching to emergency survival mode. It depletes resources and triggers a vicious cycle of stress and fatigue. Inside you, there is a tiny power plant running on glycogen. By 3 in the morning, its reserves are reaching a critical level. The brain receives an SOS signal and turns on the siren. You wake up. Today, we will dissect this mechanism. You will learn what the wolf hour is and the real liver energy crisis that causes it. You will understand how even a fleeting beam of light from your phone at this moment completely nullifies all chances of returning to sleep. And most importantly, I will give you a working protocol. We will talk about the right evening snack that will support your liver until morning. We will master a simple grounding technique. The professional, late middle-age female doctor's voice. The tone is empathetic, warm, and trustworthy, like a private consultation. She speaks clearly but naturally, not like a robot. She uses significant pauses before important medical terms and drops her pitch slightly when discussing serious symptoms like melanoma or heart failure to emphasize importance. She takes audible, soft breaths between long thoughts to sound human and alive. The pacing is moderate, slow enough to teach, but dynamic enough to keep attention. It will help switch your nervous system from the fight or flight mode back to a state of deep recovery. All of this is not theory. It is an instruction manual for switching off the internal alarm siren that steals your strength and youth. Let's begin. Anna, 38 years old. She woke up at exactly 3:15 a.m. with a racing heart. During the day, liters of coffee and a craving for sweets. Tests showed her cortisol was off the charts at night because her liver was empty. Ignoring these signals is akin to taping over a blinking check engine light in your car until it breaks down. Morning grogginess after seemingly sufficient sleep is the first warning sign. Unexplained anxiety that creeps in at night when your body should be relaxing is the second. A constant craving for caffeine and refined carbohydrates is no longer a whim, but a desperate attempt by your brain to fuel a dying metabolic fire. The consequences of such nighttime overexertion are systemic. Your adrenal glands become depleted, their reserves dwindling. Your body develops insulin resistance, a direct path to type 2 diabetes. Cognitive functions dull, memory falters, concentration scatters like smoke. The immune system, lacking resources for nighttime repair, falters, leaving you susceptible to every cold. And the shadow of depression looms as chronic stress and sleep deprivation literally wash away feel-good neurotransmitters from the brain. the professional, late middle-age female doctor's voice. The tone is empathetic, warm, and trustworthy, like a private consultation. She speaks clearly but naturally, not like a robot. She uses significant pauses before important medical terms and drops her pitch slightly when discussing serious symptoms like melanoma or heart failure to emphasize importance. She takes audible, soft breaths between long thoughts to sound human and alive. The pacing is moderate, slow enough to teach, but dynamic enough to keep attention. But here's what's important. 80% of people who, like Anna, wake up during this witching hour have tests revealing nighttime hypoglycemia. Blood sugar levels drop so low that the brain perceives it as a life-threatening situation. It wakes you up to find food. In the wild, this would save you from starvation. In a modern apartment, it leads to a trip to the refrigerator, or worse, endless anxious thoughts in the dark. Anna followed the protocol for 10 days. She added a special evening snack and mastered the attention-switching technique. On the 11th morning, she called me. Her voice sounded different, calm, without that familiar metallic note of tension. She said she had slept through the night. She woke up to her alarm at 7, and for the first time in months, she didn't want to throw it against the wall. Energy, steady and quiet, had returned to her. It wasn't magic, it was just her body finally getting a chance to rest and recover, instead of putting out a non-existent fire every night. The liver serves as a nighttime fuel depot for the brain. It is replenished during the day. You eat, and the excess glucose is stored as glycogen. These are complex, starchy granules. At night, while you sleep, the depot doors open slowly. The liver breaks down glycogen and sends tiny portions of glucose into the bloodstream. This is fuel for the heart, lungs, kidneys, and brain. The brain consumes a colossal amount of energy, even in sleep. But what happens if the depot is initially half empty? Or if fuel consumption is too high? By 3 in the morning, glycogen stores are critically low. Blood sugar levels begin to drop. For the brain, this is a signal equivalent to a fire. It doesn't know you are safe in your bed. It thinks you are lost in the woods without food. There is no more glucose left to sustain vital functions. The brain then sounds the fire alarm. This siren is your HPA axis, the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal system. Your brain notices the energy deficit and panics. It sends an instantaneous lightning bolt to your adrenal glands. They release adrenaline and, boom, you wake up. Their job is to urgently raise sugar levels at any cost. They force the liver to squeeze out the last drops of glycogen. If there is none, the production of glucose from your own muscle proteins is initiated. Heart palpitations, a rush of heat, and an anxious awakening. This is the sound of the siren. This is not a mental disorder. It is an ancient survival program mistakenly triggered. Japanese scientists from Tohoku University clearly showed this connection back in 2015. They observed healthy individuals. The scientists recorded that even a slight drop in blood sugar levels at night serves as a powerful trigger for awakening. This causes a subsequent surge in cortisol. The body wakes up to save itself from hypoglycemia. But here lies the trap. You wake up and are conscious. A professional, late middle-age female doctor's voice. The tone is empathetic, warm, and trustworthy, like a private consultation. She speaks clearly but naturally, not like a robot. She uses significant pauses before important medical terms and drops her pitch slightly when discussing serious symptoms like melanoma or heart failure to emphasize importance. She takes audible, soft breaths between long thoughts to sound human and alive. The pacing is moderate, slow enough to teach, but dynamic enough to keep attention. This is where the second player comes in. Light. Any light is dangerous. Even a dim bluish glow from a charger or alarm clock screen disrupts sleep. A 2020 study from the University of Colorado revealed a startling detail. Even dim blue light at 3 lux is comparable to a street lamp outside the window. It suppresses melatonin production by 50% in just 30 minutes. Melatonin is the key that locks the door to sleep. When its level drops, the lock clicks. Returning to a state of sleep becomes almost impossible. This gives rise to 2 main myths. The first myth states that nighttime awakenings with anxiety are solely psychological issues. But now you see the chain of events. An empty glycogen store causes a drop in blood sugar. The brain sends an SOS signal. A cortisol release occurs, leading to awakening. The root cause is often not anxiety itself. Anxiety is a consequence of an energy crisis. You can't fall asleep not because of your thoughts. You think a lot because of high cortisol. The second myth advises picking up a book or phone to distract yourself. This is the worst solution. You are shining a flashlight beam directly into the eyes of your sleep. Light from the screen tells the pineal gland that the night has been cancelled. Melatonin, after the cortisol surge, is completely reset. The brain switches to daytime wakefulness mode. Falling asleep again is now unnatural for it. You get caught in a vicious cycle. A professional, late middle-age female doctor's voice. The tone is empathetic, warm, and trustworthy, like a private consultation. She speaks clearly but naturally, not like a robot. She uses significant pauses before important medical terms and drops her pitch slightly when discussing serious symptoms like melanoma or heart failure to emphasize importance. She takes audible, soft breaths between long thoughts to sound human and alive. The pacing is moderate, slow enough to teach, but dynamic enough to keep attention. You woke up due to low blood sugar and turned on the light. Melatonin disappeared and fatigue accumulates. In the evening, you crave sweets again. Glycogen stores are replenished poorly. At night, the story repeats. Understanding this mechanism changes everything. You stop blaming yourself for weak willpower. You see the body as a complex and wise machine. The machine shouts about a problem in the loudest way possible. It wakes you up in the middle of the night. Knowing the language of this scream, you can respond to it. So, we've gotten to the most important part. You understand why your brain is sounding the alarm. Now, let's learn how to turn off this alarm. This isn't about magic pills. It's about giving your liver what it desperately asks for at night, fuel for slow, steady burning. Let's start with micronutrients that will help calm the nervous system and improve the quality of sleep itself. The first helper is magnesium, but not just any form. Glycinate or malate forms are best absorbed and don't cause digestive upset. 200 to 400 milligrams an hour before bed is like a gentle braking blanket for your overexcited neurons. Magnesium relaxes muscles, slows nerve impulse transmission, and aids the liver in its nightly work. This isn't a sleeping pill, it's support for natural processes. The second element is the amino acid glycine. 3 grams dissolved in water before bed work wonders. A professional, late middle-age female doctor's voice. The tone is empathetic, warm, and trustworthy, like a private consultation. She speaks clearly but naturally, not like a robot. She uses significant pauses before important medical terms and drops her pitch slightly when discussing serious symptoms like melanoma or heart failure to emphasize importance. She takes audible, soft breaths between long thoughts to sound human and alive. The pacing is moderate, slow enough to teach, but dynamic enough to keep attention. Glycine gently lowers core body temperature, which is a direct signal to the brain that it's time to sleep. It calms the nervous system without causing morning drowsiness. But most importantly, it's gluconeogenic. This means it serves as an alternative building material for glucose production in the liver. You give the liver ready-made bricks so it doesn't have to break down the walls of your own muscles for them. Now let's move on to lifestyle. There are 2 cornerstones here. The first is the strategy for the right evening snack. Forget the apple or cracker. You need protein and healthy fats. 150 to 200 grams of cottage cheese, or a serving of protein shake with a spoonful of almond or peanut butter, 60 to 90 minutes before bed. This is not food, it's an insurance policy for your liver. The protein, casein from cottage cheese, is slowly digested, providing a stable supply of amino acids. Fat slows down digestion and provides a feeling of prolonged satiety. Together, they prevent a sharp drop in blood sugar by 3 in the morning. The liver breathes a sigh of relief. It now has something to burn slowly until morning. The second cornerstone is the grounding technique in case you do wake up. You are lying in bed. Your task is to bring your consciousness back into your body, pull it out of the panic vortex of thoughts. Start with your feet. The professional, late middle-age female doctor's voice. The tone is empathetic, warm, and trustworthy, like a private consultation. She speaks clearly but naturally, not like a robot. She uses significant pauses before important medical terms and drops her pitch slightly when discussing serious symptoms like melanoma or heart failure to emphasize importance. She takes audible, soft breaths between long thoughts to sound human and alive. The pacing is moderate, slow enough to teach but dynamic enough to keep attention. Tense the muscles of your feet hard for 5 seconds, feel that tension, and then completely release it, dissolve it. Move on to your calves. Tense, hold, release. Then thighs, buttocks, abdomen, fists. Go from bottom to top. This is not meditation, it's a physiological switch. By tensing and relaxing muscles, you send safety signals to the brain via the vagus nerve. You tell it, everything is fine, no need to run anywhere, you can turn off the light again. Sleep often returns halfway through this process. What will you feel quickly? In just 1 to 3 days, the evening snack will make itself known. You'll wake up in the morning and realize you weren't tossing and turning all night. The feeling of deep, exhausting hunger at 3 in the morning will subside. Pre-sleep anxiety will decrease because your body will know that its pantry is not empty. This is the first very encouraging sign. The long-term strategy is to restore the body's glycogen stores. To achieve this, balanced nutrition throughout the day with sufficient complex carbohydrates, buckwheat, quinoa, sweet potato, and fiber is crucial. Don't skip breakfast, as it sets the metabolic pace for the entire day. Also, regulate your circadian rhythms with light. Preferably sunlight, in the first 2 hours after waking signals daytime. This suppresses melatonin production and fine-tunes your internal clock. A professional, late middle-age female doctor's voice. The tone is empathetic, warm, and trustworthy, like a private consultation. She speaks clearly but naturally, not like a robot. She uses significant pauses before important medical terms and drops her pitch slightly when discussing serious symptoms like melanoma or heart failure to emphasize importance. She takes audible, soft breaths between long thoughts to sound human and alive. The pacing is moderate, slow enough to teach, but dynamic enough to keep attention. In the evening, embrace complete darkness, blackout curtains, a sleep mask, and taped-up LEDs. This teaches your brain a clear schedule. Now, common questions. First, what if I don't want to eat before bed? Won't I gain weight? We're not talking about a plate of pasta. It's about a small portion of protein with fat. Your body expends energy to digest and absorb it. During restful sleep, this fuel won't be stored as fat, but will support vital functions. This is the opposite of nighttime overeating of sweets due to hunger. Second question, what should I do if I wake up and can't fall back asleep, even with grounding techniques? The 20-minute rule. If sleep doesn't return after a relaxation technique, get out of bed. Avoid bright lights. Go to the kitchen in the dark, drink a little warm water, and sit in a chair for 5 minutes. Then return to bed. Breaking the cycle of lying in frustration is key. If the primary methods are unsuitable for any reason, alternatives exist. Acupuncture or self-massage of the Shen Men point on the upper part of the ear can help reduce anxiety. Find a small dimple and gently massage it in a circular motion for a couple of minutes. Alternatively, use apps with pink noise. It masks sharp background sounds, creaking floorboards, street noise that might subconsciously wake you during the vulnerable light sleep phase. And now about what doesn't work. Alcohol as a sleeping pill is a trap. Yes, it helps you fall asleep, but it fragments the sleep architecture by suppressing the rapid phases. And what's worse, it depletes the liver's glycogen stores, as the liver is busy detoxifying it. In the morning, you'll wake up with even more fatigue and anxiety. Taking melatonin in isolation without addressing the cause is also a half measure. If you wake up from a cortisol surge due to hypoglycemia, additional melatonin won't stop this emergency program. You need to work on the root cause. And finally, the most important thing, red flags. If waking up at 3 o'clock is accompanied not just by anxiety, but by a feeling of severe suffocation, pressure, or chest pain, see a cardiologist immediately. This could be a symptom of serious problems. If, after 2 to 3 weeks of consistently following the protocol, there are no improvements, an examination by an endocrinologist is necessary. Possible adrenal or thyroid dysfunction or true diabetes requires separate treatment. Your body is not your enemy. It doesn't wake you up out of spite. It's screaming for help in the only language it knows, the language of ancient survival instincts. Give it what it asks for: steady fuel, darkness, and signals of safety. And then the silence of the night will once again become your ally. Okay, let's put everything together into a simple and clear system of actions. This is not a list of rules, but rather a route map. You know why the body sends a signal. The plan for the day. A professional, late middle-aged female doctor's voice. The tone is empathetic, warm, and trustworthy, like a private consultation. She speaks clearly, but naturally, not like a robot. She uses significant pauses before important medical terms and drops her pitch slightly when discussing serious symptoms like melanoma or heart failure to emphasize importance. She takes audible, soft breaths between long thoughts to sound human and alive. The pacing is moderate, slow enough to teach, but dynamic enough to keep attention. Now let's learn to respond to it correctly. First, the plan for the day. It is built around 3 key points. Morning is about resetting your circadian rhythms. In the first 2 hours after waking up, try to get at least 10 minutes of bright daylight outdoors, not through a window. Sunlight hitting the retina is the most powerful signal to the brain that the day has begun. It stops melatonin production and sets the precise pace of your internal clock. Day is about building. A balanced lunch with quality protein and complex carbohydrates, for example, chicken breast with quinoa or lentils. This is fuel to replenish those crucial overnight glycogen stores in the liver. Evening is about preparation. 2 hours before bed, start dimming the lights. Turn off overhead lights. Use table lamps or candles. This creates a hormonal sunset. 60 to 90 minutes before bed is your safety net, that go-to snack. A portion of cottage cheese with a handful of almonds or a spoonful of nut butter. And right before you lie down, 5 minutes of breathing using the 4-7-8 technique. Inhale for 4 counts, hold for 7, exhale slowly for 8. This is a physiological off switch for the sympathetic nervous system. Now the plan for the week. Don't try to implement everything at once. Distribute the load. On Monday, start with the evening snack. On Tuesday, add the morning light ritual. On Wednesday, practice the grounding technique we discussed. A processional, late middle-aged female doctor's voice. The tone is empathetic, warm, and trustworthy, like a private consultation. She speaks clearly, but naturally, not like a robot. She uses significant pauses before important medical terms and drops her pitch slightly when discussing serious symptoms like melanoma or heart failure to emphasize importance. She takes audible, soft breaths between long thoughts to sound human and alive. The pacing is moderate, slow enough to teach, but dynamic enough to keep attention. On Thursday, limit caffeine after 2 p.m. On Friday evening, try taking magnesium in glycinate form. On Saturday, have a digital detox. Eliminate all screens 2 hours before bed. On Sunday morning, conduct a light analysis. How do you feel? Did you wake up during the night? What is your energy level? To understand how necessary these steps are for you, there are a couple of simple tests. The first is for hidden hypoglycemia. If you have a glucometer, place it by your bed. When you wake up at night, without getting up, immediately measure your blood sugar level. A reading below 3.9 millimoles per liter is a direct signal. Your brain isn't waking you up for no reason. The second test is for light sensitivity. Spend an evening in complete darkness. Use candles or a special red light lamp. Go to bed at your usual time. If the next morning you feel noticeably more rested and refreshed, it means your problem is partly caused by ordinary household lighting, which interferes with melatonin production. Often, people make the same mistakes when they start working on their sleep. The first is looking at the time when they wake up. This action instantly activates the analytical part of the brain. You start calculating how much time is left until the alarm, and anxiety grows. How to avoid this? Turn your alarm clock screen to the wall or cover its display with opaque tape. The second mistake is the wrong composition of an evening snack. A professional, late middle-aged female doctor's voice. The tone is empathetic, warm, and trustworthy, like a private consultation. She speaks clearly but naturally, not like a robot. She uses significant pauses before important medical terms and drops her pitch slightly when discussing serious symptoms like melanoma or heart failure to emphasize importance. She takes audible, soft breaths between long thoughts to sound human and alive. The pacing is moderate, slow enough to teach, but dynamic enough to keep attention. Fruits, dried fruits, crackers are fast carbohydrates. They will cause a sharp spike in sugar, followed by a rapid drop, which can only worsen awakenings. Only protein and healthy fats are needed. They are absorbed slowly, ensuring a steady background. To self-monitor, create 2 checklists. The first is Ideal Evening. Mark the items with check marks: dim light, no screens, evening snack, magnesium intake, breathing exercises, or relaxation techniques. The second is Morning After. Keep a small notebook and immediately after waking up, record 3 things: what time you woke up at night, if you woke up, your sleep quality on a subjective scale from 1 to 10, and your energy level in the first half hour after getting up. After a week, you will see a clear correlation between completing the items on the first checklist and the indicators on the second. This is not a strict discipline, but an observation. You do not become a supervisor of your sleep. You become its attentive researcher. Every evening is an experiment. Every morning is data. And gradually, step by step, you find that unique recipe that makes your inner power plant run quietly and smoothly all night without false alarms or sudden awakenings. And one last thing, remember that this video is for informational purposes only. The internet provides knowledge, but only a doctor can make a diagnosis. For any alarming symptoms, pain, or doubts, seek real medical help. Your safety is paramount.